All right, welcome back to another update video. Now, this one's going to be a little different. I'm just going to do some talking out loud here um, about my progression, how I'm doing it, budget, and where I'm getting my stuff. Because I think that's pretty important, especially for Canadians, because Canadians don't have the choice that other places, especially the United States and Europe, has in terms of what they can buy, where they can buy it. We are a smaller country, we have a smaller market, and therefore our options are limited, especially when you're in small town Canada, which I am in. Like, I probably live in one of the hardest places to keep a reef aquarium in the world. The nice thing is I don't need a chiller. If I ever need to cool the tank down, I just open a window. Now, the place is frozen pretty much half the year. Yeah. So what I'm using as my plan is kind of three tenets. One, what livestock do I want to keep? Two, what size of tank can I afford to keep that livestock in? Because the size of your tank determines the price of your equipment. When you're talking heaters, pumps, lights, skimmers, all of that is kind of created and built with specific tank sizes and volumes in mind. So that will determine the size of the tank. So the wall I'm putting it on, I could do a 350-gallon tank, but I could not afford the equipment for a 350-gallon tank. I can afford comfortably in my budget a 140-gallon tank. And with my budget at that size, I can keep the livestock I want, which is heavily stocked fish. I love fish first and foremost. And then for corals, I want to do a predominantly SPS tank. So that means I need a little more expensive lighting because they're more light, hungry animals. And I need more flow. And that costs more. It costs more from better pumps. It costs more for all that. You also need to be able to keep your water pretty pristine and supplemented. So that also costs too. So then I got livestock, I've got size, I've got budget. After that is where am I going to get my stuff that will give me the most value for my money. I did a lot of research in this, and that's the fun thing about this hobby is like the research. Sometimes I enjoy the research more than executing the plan. Research and planning is almost funner sometimes. It's a good hobby for that, right? It gets you out of your head, and it gets you into a space that you enjoy and interest. At least for me. My last tank I was doing more fly by the seat of my pants. This one is going to be slow and measured out, well researched, because I see the value in that in a stable tank. But for Canada, to get the value for my dollars, it's hands down reefsupply.ca. So this place is fantastic. I almost call it like a Canadian BRS. They have almost all the same products that BRS has, but for a Canadian, they don't have the currency exchange problems. They don't have the shipping problems. They say Canada and the United States has free trade. Not for sending stuff back and forth against the border, through the borders. Like, shipping is just way more overpriced when you're shipping from one shipping destination, general USPS, to Canada, where it hits Canada Post. Then it might hit somewhere else where you end up getting brokerage fees or some kind of tariff fees. It is a hassle getting stuff from anywhere other than Canada. And that's why I'm really happy I found these guys. The other thing is value, like just the price of stuff. So one thing I do when I'm figuring out where I want to buy stuff, how I want to buy stuff, is I will fill up a shopping cart and see how much the total comes to, shipping and everything included, on multiple websites. So I will create the same shopping cart as much as possible, depending on if the store even has the stuff I want, on multiple different sites, and see how much it's going to be. And these guys always win. And I never had to ever even think of touching that price match thing. So that's telling you something. That means they're pricing their equipment appropriately, properly, fairly. Because I haven't put an item in the cart where I've been like, oh, I'm going to have to contact them to get the price match. No, it's never happened. The other thing is these guys have all the equipment I want. Like, I've never been like, well, I'll have to get this here, I'll have to get that here. They have everything. And the cool thing about it is they have like the cheaper stuff that doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but will get the job done for what I want. And they have all the way up to the most high price stuff that has all the bells and whistles, and that's cool too, right? There's going to be some pieces of equipment that I'm going to go the higher price stuff, and then there's going to be some equipment that I'm going to go the lower price stuff. And this place has those levels in stock. The other thing is they've got a great website. There's no need for a bad website these days. I don't understand. There's a lot of Canadian aquarium stores that have absolutely garbage websites, and it just turns me off right away when I can't easily find stuff. So they got the side sub menu, and they even have sub menus of interest. So, like, I was looking at water pumps the other day. I was, even before I clicked on this, I was like, okay, I'm going to want DC pumps because I want this tank to be as quiet as possible. They even have a category set aside for DC pumps. So, like, well, that's easy. The other thing is the shipping. So shipping, it triggers free shipping at about 120 bucks Canadian, and that's more than reasonable. And then even if it doesn't trigger that, I think it's a flat rate 10 bucks Canadian. So like it's super cheap, reasonable shipping. There is an extra fee for heavy and large goods, which there is that even in the United States and everywhere else. But it's reasonable. I was able to buy my rock and my salt from these guys cheaper, brought to my door, than going to get the exact same product at my local fish store. Now, two of them are a complete disaster. I don't know how they're alive and have been for so long. The only thing I can figure is they're like a money laundering operation or something like that. There are other two that are great, but they're primarily for livestock, and I will probably do a video there. It's just I don't know if they get enough turnover for their dry goods to be able to price that stuff competitively. So livestock in my town, great. Dry goods in my town, really not great. Like, we're talking sometimes double the price of these guys. So yeah, where I talk about equipment, and when I'm showing equipment that I have in my tank and putting in my tank, just assume it's coming from these guys unless I say otherwise, and it's probably then going to be some weird piece for a DIY that no aquarium store will possibly have. So yeah, if you're Canadian, you're looking to get stuff for an aquarium, I highly recommend these guys. They've been fantastic. I've gotten a couple orders. They've been great. Already, customer service answers me right away with fair and appropriate responses, clear responses too. So everything has been fabulous with these guys. Can't recommend them enough. So yeah, reefsupply.ca. Check them out, especially if you're Canadian. It's a good place, and if you live in Quebec, you're lucky enough to go in and see them there, and you get to support a Canadian business. So that's awesome too for Canadian. All right, later.